Hello students, my name is Madam Phoebe Karaoke from Mount Kenya University, School of Hospitality, Travel and Tourism, from the Department of Travel and Tourism. I'll take you through the session of this service quality management, which is the unit code BHT4103. Today's lecture, we are going to talk to the topic characteristics of service vis-a-vis products and the dimensions of service quality. First of all, maybe for us to understand about service quality, I'll take you through its specific definition and the other specific definition, so that at least when we start on the characteristics of the services vis-a-vis products, then you'll now be able to understand why it is important to know how service quality should be delivered. So from the specific definitions, we'll go to other definitions of the terms I'm going to use frequently. And then it's from there that now you start having the foundations or foundational knowledge of what you are to do today on the issues of service quality. So service quality is defined as the comparison of the customer's expectation with service performance. And service performance, learner, this is normally the perceived service, what you receive, what you're given by that service provider. Because services, actually we say, as I'll take you later on, you now understand as from the characteristics why service have different characteristics with the products. And that's why I'm now saying from the definition that service quality is defined as the comparison between customer's expectation with the performance. What you expect as a customer and what is your expectation of what is to be given to you through performance. That's a service. So perceived service. Quality is in tourism and hospitality industry involves consistent delivery of products and guest services according to the expected standards. According to the expected standards. Then if you give a service and you're giving it according to the expected standards, then you have met the quality. You've met that customer's quality expectation. But if it is not up to the standard, that's when you say the service is not up to the quality. The quality is not up to the standard that the customer expected. So as a service provider, you should know, is my service of quality? Am I giving the right services, or quality of my services? Are they meeting the expected standards? If they are not meeting, or they've not met the expected standards or the standard quality, then we say it's not up to the quality. So quality in tourism and hospitality industry involves consistent delivery of products and guest services according to the expected standards. Quality also is meeting and exceeding customers' expectation. Quality is also meeting or exceeding the customer's expectation. Mr. James Fitzgerald, an author of service management, defines service as a time-perishable, intangible experience performed for a customer acting in the role of a co-producer. You know, a customer in service production or in service delivery is normally the co-producer. Because for a service to be performed or to be delivered or to be given, then the customer has to be there. That's why you now become a co-producer. You have to be there so that you are able to consume that specific service you are to consume at that time. Services are also ideas and concepts. But products are things. mostly tangible things or items, e.g. toothpaste, clothes, tables, all those now we call them products because you can touch. You can actually evaluate the product before you are able, you prior buying or prior purchasing. But for a service, you cannot actually evaluate that specific service unless if you are there, you see how that service is being performed to you, and it is from there and then that a customer is able to evaluate and say how that service is according to how it is being performed by the service provider. So, and that's why you're saying for a service to be provided, a customer has to be there. He becomes the core producer. So, learners, we continue. We are going also to continue on the issues of services. Services are performed directly for customers. Services are performed directly for customers, e.g. healthcare and education. As I'm doing right now, I'm just delivering a lecture. That's a service. So, all for the customer's properties, e.g. vacuum cleaner repair, dry cleaning, tailoring, all those are services, and they are normally performed directly to customers. Services also are performed directly for customers, which requires customers' participation during the performance. That's why I said initially, our learners, that for a service to be complete service delivery, a customer has to be there so that they start what you call production and consummation of a service. But on the other hand, when you talk about products, products are normally produced or manufactured in those factories. Now the factory becomes like a buffer between the production and the consummation. But in a service, it's now a different thing. The customer has to be there for any service delivery to be effective. And that's why service performed directly for customers require customers' participation during the performance of the service delivery. Service depends also on friendliness, competence, responsiveness, and motivation of the providers. This is true. Why? It is true because the moment a service provider becomes friendlier or friendly to the customer, automatically the customer will perceive the service because he or she will see automatically the person being very friendly and ready to deliver. So you as a customer, you feel that since this person is really very friendly, you automatically now start feeling that essence of the service being delivered to you because the person is friendlier. So friendliness. The other one is competitiveness. The person becomes very much aware of what he or she is to provide. So becomes very competent in what he or she is to provide to that specific customer. So competence, responsiveness, how you respond. Was the person delivering a service very quick to responding to your service inquiry or to your service expectation? If he was or she was, then that is what we call responsiveness. And that's why you're saying service depends on friendliness, competence, responsiveness, and also the motivation of the service provider. And motivation here is whereby the person is willing to really provide that customer's service on time and promptly as well. So service motivation of the service provider is also key there. Recognizing the unique nature of services, role and impact of service in our day-to-day life, ensuring then service quality in delivering becomes increasingly important. Because of this uniqueness of the services, they are very unique, they're not like products, because a service will need a lot of evaluation so that a customer can actually come back to you as a saloonist. as a waiter, then those specific services you're providing, then they have some unique nature which cannot be weighed. And this is now the thing that calls forth our issue of service quality delivery. And it's really becoming an increasing kind of a thing that is being encompassed in all industries where services are to be delivered. And so all this uniqueness of the services is now what prompts people, or maybe pushes people, to delivering unique services to customers, so that they continue having what you call loyal customers who will always be coming to them to receive the same services they had received from you. Because services actually, they remain for a longer time in the mindset of the customers, but it's not something which can be touched, that a customer will look at it and say, this is the service I got. No, it's something that will remain in the mindset of the customers, and they will keep continuing coming to your company, to your industry, to receive and to perceive the same service they had gotten. Now we go to the distinctive attributes. We now go to those distinctive attributes of services vis-a-vis products. Fundamentally, services differ from products in terms of how they are produced. Fundamentally, services differ from products in terms of how they are produced, consumed, and also evaluated. You know, services, the way they are produced is not the same way a product is produced. Just as I said earlier on, I said products are produced and manufactured in a factory. So the factory becomes a buffer between the consumption and the production of those products. But in a service, there's no buffer. It is up to the customer to be there to actually speculate and also evaluate service delivery process. So a buffer is not there in any service delivery process. But in a product, it's there. It acts as a buffer. That is the factory. So that's why I'm saying fundamentally services have to differ in a big way between products. They have to differ with the products on how they're produced, on how they're consumed, and evaluated. Of course, all this becomes very different, because in a product, the people have to go to the shops, whereby after the factory, those products are taken to the shops, to the supermarket, to the malls, to the markets, you know. So the customer goes to the market, supermarket, to go and consume those products. You see, now the process is really different with the service. Service, the customer has to be at the place which we call service factory, whereby it is now the customer and the service provider meeting together, which we call a point of contact. They have to be there, whereby so that at least there will be what we call consummation of the service. But without having that, then there will be no consummation of any kind of a service. So it's really different. It differs a lot with the products. Service differ a lot with the products on the essence of production, consummation, and also evaluation. Some of the key unique characteristics to services are as follows. I'll take you through them one by one, and you'll be able now to understand how they differ with the products. Intangibility. Services are basically intangible. And as we all know, products are tangible. You touch that trouser, you touch that blouse or shoe, you touch, evaluate it before you purchase. But for a service, you cannot touch. So services are basically intangible. And the intangible nature of services also represents or presents a problem for the customers. A problem for the customers. When buying a product, the customer is able to see it, feel it, and test its performance prior or before purchase. But for a service, however, the customer must rely on the reputation of the service firm, and also can also rely on the word of mouth, can also rely on the past experience. That's a service. But for a product, it's just You go have the product, evaluate it, see it, taste it, all those kind of things, and then you're able to buy that kind of a product or that type of a product or that specific product. But for a service, you rely on the reputation, past experience, word of mouth from people, what they say about that salonist. You go to the same salon and you try, you assume or you have high expectations. The same services you are provided to them will be provided to you. So high expectations then are met there. We have the issue of inseparability. Inseparability. Production and consumption of many services are inseparable. E.g., delivering a lecture. Of course, I cannot just deliver a lecture and there are no students to receive or to get my lecture or get the information I'm trying to relay. So lecturers has to be there, a lecturer has to be there, and the students has to be there so that the two now can exchange the kind of a service. You become the co-producer as a student. So production and consumption of many services are inseparable, e.g. delivering a lecture. They are also receiving maybe medication in a hospital. That's a service. It's up to you as a customer or as a patient to go to the hospital and receive the treatment. We have also quality in services often occurs during service delivery, whereas quality in product is essentially engineered at the manufacturing plant and delivered intact to the customer. Unlike goods producer, service providers do not have the benefit of the factory serving as a buffer between the production and consumption. So that is the issue of inseparability. One has to be there to consume a certain service. A customer has to be there. But if you're not there, you're not going to consume that specific service you're to consume. So you have to be there and the service provider to be there, and the two of you now have a point of contact where the delivery of the service will be effective. Inseparability still, service customers are often in the service factory. So just like in the factory where products are made, also the service, there's a factory where it's a service factory, observing and evaluating. Remember, in the service factory, it's just the issue of observing and evaluating. How is this salonist holding my hair? How is this service being provided to you? What, is it up to your expectation? Will your expectation be met? Then with that, we say there is that issue of the service factory. You're now in a factory where you're expecting as a customer those expectations you had about your hair made well and, all those kind of things met satisfactorily. So with this issue, we say in a service factory, there's that essence of observation and evaluation. And remember, this is done by the service, the customer, whereby he's really trying to evaluate what will happen after this. Will my head look good? Will my nails look good? And etc. So all this is now at the point of service factory, whereby there's a point of contact between the service provider and the customer. And the customer at that point is doing a lot of observation, a lot of evaluation. How will it be at the end of this service? So factories, observation and evaluation of the production process as they experience the service. That's the customer at the service factory. So that's the issue of inseparability. We have heterogeneity. Heterogeneity is also another characteristic. Services, especially those with a high labor content. Lana, when you talk about heterogeneity is where we have differences for you to understand. So services, especially those with a high labor content, are heterogeneous. Their performance often vary from producer to producer, or from a certain performer to another performer, or from a customer to a customer, and from day to day. So you find that, for example, I give an example. You go to a hotel today, and in this hotel, you went maybe last month, and you received good and nice, luxurious services which were offered to you maybe by a certain waiter. Then you go after 2 weeks, or maybe go next after 3 months, and you find services very, very different from what you had been given earlier on by a certain service provider. So you find that, or a different waiter, then you will start feeling you are dissatisfied, because your expectation were, I will go and I will still be satisfied the same way I was satisfied last time. So you go there and you're shocked because maybe the same waiter will not be there anymore. You given a very different service. Maybe the reception was not good. Nobody welcomed you. But the first time you were welcomed nicely and you felt again to wanting to go. So when you went, things changed, differences. You went, found a very different waiter who was not even hospitable enough, who was very hostile, maybe I can say that, or maybe was not able to meet your expectation as you had them. Or so we say that is what we call heterogeneity, from producer to another producer. So that differences now makes what we call services being very unique in their nature. They are very unique because they tend to differ. 1 month you go, the other month you find services now not being the same. So that is heterogeneity. We have the other one, deferred standards and criteria. Services just as performances are difficult for customers to evaluate prior to purchase. I'm talking about these characteristics, differing standards and criteria of services. Services just as performances are difficult to for customers to evaluate prior purchasing. It is true, because you are not able to know, will the service meet my expectation? You're not really sure. You don't know about it, how it will be delivered to you. You don't know how you're going to perceive it. So it becomes something which we say it is of differing standards and also the criteria. You don't know which criteria you are going to use so that you can evaluate. You as a customer or a service provider, you don't know which criteria customers are using to evaluate your service. So there's a bit of some kind of what we call confusion when it comes to the issues of differing standards and criteria of service. The criteria customers use to evaluate service quality may be more difficult for the marketer also to comprehend. That's why I'm saying it's not really known. Which criteria do customers use when I'm plaiting their hair? Because whenever I plate customer, they never come back. So you never know what kind of a criteria customers are using to evaluate your service. So it's something which is very unique. It has very unique characteristics or nature, if we may say. These services they pose a lot of challenges because nobody is able to know which specific criteria customers are using to evaluate those services you provide to them. How customers evaluate investment services offered by a stakeholder is more complicated and varied than how they evaluate trousers, for example, or materials, or let me say products and another product, that is. So it becomes very, very complicated when it comes to the issues of evaluation. You don't know how exactly a customer is to go and evaluate your services you're providing to them. Unlike products, they just look at it and say, this is of good quality, I take this, I like this, and they go on purchasing the same product. But for services, actually, because of the criteria and the differing standards, becomes a challenge. And that's one of the characteristics which poses a lot of challenges to most of the customers and also to the marketer or the service provider concerning a service. The only criteria that count in evaluating service quality are defined by customers. That is true. The only criteria that counts in evaluating service quality are defined by customer. It's only a customer who can evaluate a service. You as a service provider, you cannot actually evaluate on your services you are delivering because, of course, you'd want more of the positivities on your side, but you will not really mind about the other party. So who is to evaluate more is the customer. The customer is the one to say, When you go to that salon, when you go to that hotel, when you go to that tourism farm, this is what they do. And they evaluate, and they will come again and again and also still spread the news that that farm, tourism farm, that hotel, it's really delivering good services to the customer. Service quality perceptions stem from how well a provider performs vis-a-vis customers' expectation, and about how the provider should perform. So this then, it goes to the issue of perception. Perishability. When you talk about perishability, a service is a perishable commodity. It's a perishable commodity, whereby if it is not done today, then you cannot say much about tomorrow. So it is a perishable commodity, not as a good. You know, a good can remain and then still sell tomorrow. But for a service, once gone, it's forever gone. So a service is a perishable commodity. Consider an empty airline, for example, an unoccupied hotel or a hospital bed or room, an hour without a patient in a day of a dentist. Then we say, of course, that is where we have opportunities lost. This is what we call opportunity lost, whenever it comes to the issue of services delivery. And with this, we say, whenever there is that kind of a loss, then opportunity loss, then we say a service was never delivered at all. Because service cannot be stored. Services can never be stored. It is lost forever. And when not used, plus the consumer cannot retain the actual service after it is produced, it remains just in the mindset. You just remember that salonist, the way she was actually serving you and all that, with the whole issue of friendliness and responsiveness. And you remain to you, and you will feel like wanting to go to the same salon, to the same hotel, because of the services you received. But remember, the services, you cannot store them. You cannot actually say, I'm going to hold these services and stay with them. So that's now the thing. However, the effect of the service can be retained for a long time by the customer who received a satisfactory service. That's true. If you go to a hotel, to a salonist, and the salonist was able to do your hair nicely and all that, you were very satisfied, then it will mean that service, specific service on your head, is going to give you some service. You're going to receive what you call a long time kind of an effect of what was done on your hair. So that's also another thing when you talk about the issue of the services which you received. You perceived them, and your the services were really satisfactory to you. The other thing is on simultaneity. Simultaneity. The fact that services are created and consumed simultaneously, and thus cannot be stored, in a critical feature in the management of services. This inability to inventory services precludes using the traditional manufacturing strategy of relying on the inventory as a buffer to absorb fluctuations in demand. The simultaneous production and consumption in services also eliminates many opportunities for quality control intervention, and hence products can be inspected before delivery. And services must rely on other measures to ensure quality of services. Remember here, when you talk about simultaneously, is whereby the consummation, we are now talking about how the consummation and the production process is taking place. But in services, it has to be simultaneous. But in a product, it's whereby there has to be production first, and then later on, products delivered to where the customers are. So simultaneity is also another characteristic, and it differs from between the services and also the products. Customer participation in the service process. The process of the customer as a participant in the service process requires an attention to facilitate design that is not found in the traditional manufacturing operations, e.g., self-service in a buffet restaurant. Unlike products like automobiles, which are made in a hot, dirty, noisy factory, is of no concern to the eventual buyers because they first see the product in the pleasant surroundings of a dealer's showroom, which is now different with the services. And also the service which has different customer participation and also the service process. We now go to dimensions of service quality. For a service, the assessment of quality is made during the service delivery process, which is very true. For service to be there, satisfactory to the customer, then there's that essence of service delivery process. Each customer contact is referred to as a moment of truth, an opportunity to satisfy or dissatisfy a customer. That's the moment of truth, whereby a customer can either be satisfied or dissatisfied. With this, then, when you talk about the dimensions of service quality, it is whereby customers use certain dimensions, namely reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, and tangible, to form their judgment of the service quality. And if the service quality is not of their expectation of standards, then they are going to use the specific dimensions, which are reliability, responsiveness, assurance, empathy, tangibles, and the like, so that they can now judge on those specific services you've provided. Because services, remember what you've said, they have very unique characteristics which must be used by these specific dimensions so that a customer can now say much of how the services were provided to them and how they perceived it. And if they did not perceive it in the right way, then they will say they were not satisfied. So there's that comparison between the expectation and also the perceived quality. When expectations are exceeded, service is perceived to be exceptional quality. When expectations are exceeded, the service is perceived to be of exceptional quality and also a pleasant surprise. But when expectations are not met at all, however, the service quality is deemed unacceptable. When expectations are confirmed by perceived service, quality is satisfactory. Now, learner, because I've given you the specific dimensions which customers use to judge the overall service delivery, because services have got unique characteristics, then it is good that you understand these specific issues that I'm going to give you on the ServCore model. And when you talk about the ServCore model, as you can see, they try to measure, they try to show how services are to be measured so that we meet what you call the overall customer satisfaction. Because at the end of a service, if a customer is not satisfied, then it means certain expectations of the customers were not met at all. So on the ServCore model here, which I'm just showing you here, is a very simple one which will help you at this time to understand how service quality is important to any service delivery, because services are very unique. They have very unique features and they need to be taken care of because they will serve a customer and at the end of it, they will be satisfied. So we have customers, we have the word of mouth. On the other hand, we have the other end, we have personal needs and the past experience. Remember, I said for a customer to know about a service, he has to rely on the word of mouth, the reputation of a firm, personal needs, and also past experience. And on the other hand, we say that when you have all these ways of a customers meeting a service, they will be having to consult the issues of other people, what they say about that saloonist or that hotel or that tour firm. Then they are going to rely so much on the word of mouth. They are going to rely on the personal needs, what they need, what is their needs, and then the past experience. Then it is from this kind of needs they have and the information they have, which is going to push them to have what we call expected services. There's that expected services they want to have so that those services are given to them and they perceive it and they feel either satisfied or dissatisfied. it will differ. Then on the other hand, we have perceived services. Remember, for you to have a service delivery, there has to be expectation and there has to be perceived service. What is it that you're going to receive after your expectation? And remember, on the other hand, still, we have dimensions of service quality, which I say they are the ones the customers use most of the time to judge on the expectation of the expected services and on the perceived service. So those dimensions, they help a customer to judge, was my expectation met? Was it met? Was it not met? Did I receive or did I not receive? Those perceived service there. And they're emanating from the dimensions of service quality: reliability, responsiveness, empathy, and the tangibles. So on the other hand, after they have got those to measure or to judge what a service provider is doing, then on the other hand, they will now see whether their expected services was met or not. On the other hand, depending on their judgment, they will be able to know they received or they did not receive. That is perceived services. On the other hand, learner, I want you to be very careful here. On the other hand, there is perceived service quality. Because at the end of it all, we have expectation and we have perceived services, which are to be given later. And they're all emanating from the dimensions, what customers are using to judge how those services are being provided to them. Reliability, responsiveness, empathy, assurance, tangibles. So when you come to all the other hand of the perceived quality, service quality, what was given to the customer, that is the perceived quality, service quality. We have expectation exceeds. When you have expectation exceeding, customers exceeding what customers had in their minds, then we say expectation were greater than, were less than perceived service. And this is the time when you say you get what you call quality surprise. Quality surprise. But when you have your expectation met, this is the time we say expectation service is equal to the perceived service, which we say it is a satisfaction quality. When you have expectations not met, expectation not met, this is the time we say expectation or the expected services were greater. Sorry, were greater than the perceived service. This is the time we say unacceptable quality. Unacceptable quality. The quality was not actually acceptable. So when you have that, then that's the time we say the expected services were beyond the perceived value. So services. So you received less than your expectation. So when I'm to explain those specific dimensions, which are talking about the components of the service quality, reliability. Reliability, this is the ability to perform the promised services dependably and accurately. Assurance. This is the knowledge and the courtesy of the employees and the ability to convey confidence and trust to the customers. Tangibles, this is the appearance of the physical facilities, equipment, personnel, and the communication materials. Empathy, this is the provision of caring individualized attention to the customers in terms of service provision. Responsiveness, the willingness to help customers to provide prompt services to their customers. So these are the specific explanation of those those components I said customers use most of the time to judge on what the service provider is providing for them, so that they can have either a quality service, an unsatisfied service, or a satisfied service at the right quality. So all these then, Lana, are the specific components which customers use most of the time whenever they start issue of the expected services and the perceived services, so that it can either meet their satisfactory level whereby they are not satisfied or maybe the quality is not acceptable. This is what they use. And it is the one which was at this far end here to judge on this, to measure on this, so that they can actually say if they are fully met their expectation or they are not fully met. So that's it, my learner. I now come to the end of our session, our lecture. Thank you so much for your time. If you have questions, you'll ask me through the e-learning platform. Thank you so much and continue taking care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
These televised lectures supplement our robust online learning going on our MKU online platform. You can view more on our televised lectures via our online platform. We are in a digital era, and Mount Kenya University knows this. The following are the steps to follow so as to complete your online application. Download the application form from the website www.mku.ac.ke. Attach copies of your academic certificates and ID. Pay the application fees via M-Pesa pay bill number 270988. Your ID is the account number. 2,000 shillings is the charge for a postgraduate. You can also deposit in the bank accounts provided on the website. Then email all the above to apply@mku.ac.ke.